everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Box. This is our 12th show. Today is February 24th, 2024. Boy, that almost tied my tongue. And tonight, I've got Penny L.A. Shepherd with us again, and Susie. And then we have a guest called Holly. Her name is Holly. Holly, what'd you say? A lot?
Her name is Holly Fayon,
Oh,
and she has several master's degrees. She is a clinician. She is an actual MK Ultra deprogrammer. She started in her 20s. She worked at a place called Cottonwood where she was deprogramming individuals that had satanic ritual abuse, that had sex abuse. She actually had some high profile individuals in her care, and at one point I think she said that the FBI came and closed the place down. One of the people, I believe, was associated with the hierarchy in Hawaii. Holly, are you there? And she's having some problems with talking, and she's also muted. So maybe she's trying to work out her headset issue.
yeah.
I met Holly when I was in the crazy house, and Holly was actually responsible for me leaving, and she offered me sanctuary. When I first met her, she said, "What can I get you? What do you need?" And I said, "I just need coffee and some pens and some composition paper." And she said she went to the dollar store, and I was very specific as to the composition notebook that I wanted. I wanted the black and white one. She said, "Well, I knew I need to get her that specific, because that's what she asked for." And she actually sent it to me, and no one had ever sent anything to me there. I was pretty much put on the edge of the earth and just ignored as though I didn't exist. People that were there was an individual, her name was Susie. And she was for sure MK Ultra. She was despondent. Her family left her there. She'd been there for 3 years, 3 or 4 years. She tried to leave a couple of times, and she ran away. And they came and they brought her back. They dragged her back, and her family never visited her. She was just a cast off. She was very sweet. She, when I was brought in there, I had these rhinestone slip-on high heels. That's me. And but they didn't take those from me. And I had about 23 pairs of shoes in my truck. And I had boots, and if a shoe got worn out, then I just throw it out. But I had, many shoes that I could have worn. My brother wouldn't let me have any of those shoes. But I wondered, why in the world would this place let me have these high heels? Because I could have killed somebody with them. I literally could have put someone's eye out with it. You can kill someone with a stiletto.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've watched girls beat people with them in the forehead.
Yep. You nail somebody with that, it sticks in your head. So it's not a good look for you.
They had a guy in Austin they had to call an ambulance for in a strip club because somebody got up and got pissed off at him and nailed him with the stiletto right in his eye.
Right. That could kill him. It didn't kill him?
No, but it sure did make him bleed.
Wow. What was
I
the
think
aftermath of this? Was he blind?
I think he lost his eye actually. Yeah. I think he lost his eye.
Yeah. That could definitely kill you. So they wouldn't let me have my brother wouldn't bring me my shoes. And so I was wearing, those particular shoes. And so I said to Susie, she was working at a thrift store there. She would get out and I would watch her. She worked at a thrift store. And she said, could I bring you something from the thrift store? Holly, are you back?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
That is crazy. There's absolutely no reason why that shouldn't have been. I wasn't muted. I tried it on a different phone, but I logged out and came back in.
Okay. Can we see your beautiful face?
There we go.
There she is. So
Finally,
while I was in there, this girl, Susie, asked me if I needed anything. And I said, She said, I work at the thrift store. And she went and she bought these shoes back. And she said, she took me to a room and she said, see these shoes? She said, I bought them for myself, but I thought of you when I got them and I thought you would really like them. And she gave me the shoes. She gave me the shoes that she wanted. Susie ended up killing herself.
That's horrible.
And she had a very kind heart. I should have known because she kept asking me to make her Facebook accounts, and I did. And one time I came out, she was listening to Journey, right? She gave me her shoes. She was listening to Journey. She was going to go on a journey. And then she had the room right next to mine, and she hung herself. And I would not go in the room because I am an empath, and I didn't want to see that because I knew if I saw that, that would be my final image of her for the remainder of my life.
Right.
So I didn't go in to see that. And subsequent to that, I met Holly. And I met her through Facebook. And we talked. And she said, eventually, she said, you need to get out of there. And she said, you can come and stay with me. And she was the one, my impetus for finally, I asked to be removed absent medical advice, and I left. And I had to sign a thing to say absent medical advice. And I knew that those doctors in there were MK Ultra doctors. And when I asked the one doctor if he knew about MK Ultra, he's like, no, I don't know anything about it. I said, really? I said, because you're billing from your DSM billable hours that are coming from the DSM were orchestrated by Donald Ewan Cameron, who was head of the World Psychology Association. And he was one of the people that was at Allen Memorial Institute destroying people's minds and erasing them under MK Ultra in Canada under the Allen Memorial Institute. Yet he was head of the World Psychological Association and one of the founders of the Diagnostic Statistical Manual for Mental Health. But you're telling me you don't know anything about MK Ultra or who Donald Ewan Cameron was? Didn't you have to study any of that stuff to get your MD? Because you also have a minor in psychology?
Right.
No, I don't know who that is.
Susie, every once in a while, I might mute you. So if you want to talk, raise your hand. Wave around.
Really?
White flag.
Really? Okay.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes. So now
I'm going to try to talk. There's this particular link right now is turning off my my Bluetooth. Just like clicks it's fully charged. So we'll go as long as we can.
Okay.
We're talking about my early career.
Yes.
I was involved in a deprogramming group that we were basically part of when a lot of this SRA and satanic ritual abuse started to come out. That was the early 90s, right? That's when Roseanne kind of broke the surface. And so I was a member of a group of practitioners that really were the first ones to start seeing that come out. We were getting referrals from therapists all over the country, even the world, that were seeking out our inpatient to, take the deprogramming to that next level. So we were just winging it, really, because we didn't have experience to go on. That was 1990. So we've come a long way with the disclosure.
So now you were at some point. You were at Cottonwood, right, Holly?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the clientele and some of the things that you did? I know you can't name names.
Well, it was a behavioral health unit, right? A lot of facilities. Was also substance abuse. So I started out in the adolescent unit, and I was very young. And I did not have a master's in counseling yet, but I did find that I had a knack at working the groups. So, and then at some point we had somebody on maternity leave, and I got to take over somebody's group, and that's how my career developed. Is I found that I was good at it, and at that time it was really an honor to be with this group of professionals as we tried to get ourselves together and treat these unbelievable situations that we were seeing start to come in.
Can you tell me a little bit about some of the situations? Because you had talked about an individual who's recalling some trauma that happened, some actual abuse, and you said that that actually fingers appeared on this person, fingerprints on the arm.
Right. Well, that's yeah, that's a little bit different subject. That's one of the I guess you call it a modality of treatment that I access in my practice, and it's something that I've been studying a lot since this experience. Basically, it's the premise that the body maintains the memory of these traumas down to the cellular level, and that when you go to do the healing and transmuting, if you will, of some of these memories into something that's more, um, manageable, that the body can actually release the memories literally. So I didn't believe that, and then one day I saw it. I saw it in a group, and it was after a session that a woman had a very in detail described an event, and part of that memory was being grabbed from behind, right? So your fingers would be here, not on the back.
Right.
If you grabbed yourself, then that's how the print would be, right? But this was the opposite when it showed up. But her description of the event, this was the least traumatic part of that story, if that makes sense. Being grabbed from behind, that was the least of what happened to her. But yet that's what surfaced from the body, almost because that's like what the body could tolerate releasing at that point. The other memories may still be there for later, but you'll find that the body will release the more, what's the word I'm thinking of? Not tolerable, but yeah, the ones that are at the surface, that are closer for you to the place where you're able to deal with that particular memory, right? But after her description of this event, which went on and on, like I said, into much more traumatic description, we were all sitting there and the sun was shining through the window and she had a sleeveless shirt on. And I had like a little tea table where we could have tea after we had our session. And one of the ladies looked over and she had a handprint on her upper arm. So we were all like, oh, wow, wow, you must have, and somebody said, you must have reached up and grabbed yourself when you were describing what happened. And then someone else said, no, because the fingerprints would be the other way around. There's no way you can twist your wrist to make that print the way it was, right? And so it was her body releasing that part of the memory that she was ready to let go of. But it was amazing. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, that is that is very interesting. Because that's what I was going to ask you. Are you saying that when she was talking about that showed up on her? Wow, that's
Yeah, and this
interesting.
was in her early years. Now, I'd like to take you back to your childhood. You had some very traumatic events that happened to you in your early childhood. Would you like to tell us a
Who,
little bit about
me?
it? Yes.
Am I burned?
Yes.
Yeah. My first traumatic incident in my life. Well, it wasn't really the first. The serial child molester in Nebraska would have been the first,
Okay, let's go
but
with
I
that.
wasn't.
Let's start with
Yeah,
that.
he didn't necessarily get a hold of me, but I was exposed to him, and it was horrible. It was weird, and he later went to prison, right, and was unalived in prison. He worked for the Nebraska Public Schools. He was a martial arts expert. This guy that was kind of known to be this mentor and that knew all this stuff, and he would round up girls for his self-defense class, right? But I went once and saw something I didn't like, so I didn't go back. And well, actually, no, he came to my house and tried. He pushed me up against the washing machine, and then then I told my mom and dad, so I never went back. But then it was like years later, I find out that he actually had been, quite busy in those days, and he'd actually eventually been convicted and of something like 262 counts. So he went to the
Wow.
Nebraska State Pen, but didn't last long there.
Yeah, they say that
And
child
yeah,
molesters don't
Right. Yeah, that is the word on the street. That really wasn't as traumatic at that time because I had no idea who he was. It wasn't traumatic till years later when I was an adult and made all the connections as to who this guy was and, some other things that may even have been going on in that particular environment. Uh, and then at 14, unfortunately, because of incompetence, right, and in our public schools, in a very, I would say, democratic state where they um, were worried about certain things that at the end of the day left me very much at risk for catching on fire in an incompetent science class, accident. And
Oh,
yeah, so but I had long, I had all this hair. I had 5 times as much hair when I was young, and at some point it was to my waist, right? And so when this explosion happened, my hair saved my face. It burned off to the scalp,
oh
and
wow.
hair grows back, right? But I believe that those flames were attracted to the hair mess, and I ran also. There were so many things that protected me during that. I did experience third-degree burns, enough to, contract CPTSD out of it. And that was the first time I was exposed to certain modalities of treatment. And I was fortunate to have the opportunity to be exposed to several different modalities rather than the typical psychiatric approach or, they weren't even acknowledging it back then, really. It was being treated as, you know, how I felt after I caught on fire rather than, the actual set of symptoms that come with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Um, so I was kind of like along for the ride as we discovered that it is really a brain injury and that it should be treated separately from mental illness. And, we've got, the two sets of memories of, who you were before the incident compared to who you are afterwards and marrying that into a beautiful union of healing, right?
Yeah.
So now that was at 14. What did your father do for a living?
Oh, he's a zoologist, herpetologist, and then later in life he was an international educator and school administrator. But he was a renowned researcher, and he traveled the world. He was very much into archaeology, and my mom was a teacher. They were both amazing educators. My mother was recognized as, one of the state's teachers of the year. They do that, every year. And then our state university here has their photo in the hall. She was very well respected as an educator and a curriculum developer and trainer of educators herself.
Did you go to medical school?
I started. I realized I'd probably be one that would end up in the riverbed. So yeah, I dipped. I dipped before they got wind of my real feelings about them.
What
Susie,
happened when you went there? Why did you decide to not be a doctor?
Well, I think it was just literally an innate. I just knew I would not last long. I just knew that the natural tendency that I have to heal the body and my actual belief that we have a God-given right to total health was starting to bubble up. It was starting to come alive, and it wasn't nearly what it is today. But I wouldn't have made it. And I certainly am not the kind, I've realized now, I didn't know at the time, but I was not the kind that would have shut my mouth.
Right.
If I'd seen something that wasn't kosher, I would have been asking questions, why do we have to put the thimerosal in there? I
maybe
would have
that's
gotten
what
in trouble.
maybe that's what we would have needed. Susie, did you have any questions?
No.
Susie. Oh,
I'm listening.
She said
did you
no.
have it? You didn't have any? Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So Holly, so now you went to medical school, but you dropped out. Did your parents entice you to go overseas for any reason?
Well, my mother did
What was
because
the reason?
she didn't like my fiance. She didn't like that I was working at this place and being completely freaked out all the time about, because I think I was too young. I had PTSD from that job because I was learning things, and you know, in the context of a professional setting, you can't really, you know, you got to just go with the flow. But to be honest, we were all being subjected to things that were unprecedented
Are you talking
our
about
profession.
Cottonwood?
Yeah, yeah.
What
She
happened at
didn't.
Cottonwood? Did the
She,
feds raid it?
you know, yeah. I mean, that program that we were doing just pretty much overnight shut down. Yeah. I can't tell you who was behind that. There were certain things around that happening that would have made sense as to why that would have happened. We can all about imagine, right? Why that would have happened. But yeah, it was about a 3 year stint where I think that we were able to work as professionals and actually, you know, make any progress or come to any conclusions about, because it was real difficult. The people that came to us for this, you know, extended inpatient therapy to access the memories, right, is what the idea was. And their main therapists, who were often very, very skilled, would, you know, refer them to our facility. And the idea was they had already done quite a bit of work and they were coming to get those memories, right? Or they'd already gotten them, and they you know, they're so disturbing that you kind of have to be in a safe place. Um, but where they were coming from was just as varied, you know, as it's where you can get a pair of shoes. Like every single agency, if you will, or organization or branch of religion produced this, as far as I could see. So that tells me that the people that are performing these things are just planting themselves. You can't necessarily identify a particular group, including the Church of Satan, as the culprit. I mean, they don't help matters most likely, but you know, Penny and I argue about this sometimes. I think they're the least of our problems. You know, there's an entity beyond that, and they have actually infiltrated every agency, every church, every denomination.
I believe that. I really do believe that.
So yeah, I kind of put that aside. My mother thought that I was, you know, I was freaking out. I was not mentally okay. It was also the exact time when I'd gotten back in touch with my friend and had gotten the news that this Dudley Osborne, who was this serial child predator in Lincoln, Nebraska, had been incarcerated on these counts. So as a young adult, those memories came flooding back. I had no idea why I felt creepy as hell when I was around this man. I had no idea at age 10. And I had carried that with me the whole time, thinking, because I was rejected by my social group because I thought he was creepy. And these little girls absolutely worshiped the ground he walked on, right? Because that's how they promoted him. But weird little, you know, Holly over here, I was like, I don't like him. And so I was completely rejected by my peers, you know? So it was this double whammy that I had just kind of, I don't know, I'd put it on the back burner. I never thought about it again much until I got in touch with my friend who oddly and, you know, coincidentally, her sister had been a victim in another town 10 years later.
Now, you were telling me that there was an individual. Your life has just been so huge, so I'm trying to take it one step at a time. That you used to go out and party at this lake, and that
Oh yeah, we can talk about the toy box killers.
okay.
Yeah, because I've had a lot of revelations, not a lot, a couple of really profound revelations recently, including the fact that this freak of nature worked for the state park. right? And I'm
Work
like,
for the
wait a
state
minute.
parks.
This is not sitting. This math ain't mathing,
Did he work in
right?
conjunction with the PD? Do you
I
believe that
he
he was
did.
torturing people with
At
the
at
PD?
least one member. Yeah, yeah, yeah. A serial child predator chief of police in 1986. Yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But the problem is the record from those few years in Sierra County are MIA. I called every official in this state, every archive, every microfiche, every county clerk. There is no record of who the district attorney was in Sierra County in
Really?
those years. Right.
You also work dispatch, right?
Huh?
You
Yeah,
work
I
dispatch.
did. That's how I was privy to half of the story. The other half of the story is that once I quit the police department, which I had to because John Sawyer was stalking me on the graveyard shift while I was trying to dispatch. I was also being used as the female matron. I was also taken to accidents to take pictures, but I was in there
Jeez,
for
Holly, that's
the,
creepy.
it's a small town, right? It's
Okay,
a
it
small
must be
town.
really
Plus-
small. Did you also
plus-
like work at the luncheonette?
Well, John Sawyer kept his little circle small. You feel me?
Yes, I
John
do.
Sawyer kept his little circle small. You know, that's how they roll. But yeah, he stalked me and harassed me. So I told my mom and dad, I was like, I told my mom and dad, he comes in and I can hear like moaning and porn sounds from his office.
What the hell?
And so my parents were like, well, then tomorrow's your last day. Sorry. Little police career's over.
Because you outed him for having
Right.
porn in his office?
Well, because I think I had said a couple of things. Also, at the same time, I was starting to get phone calls, like at 1 a.m, and nobody would say anything. I know it was him, but it took me a year to figure out that it could even possibly be him, right? But it was definitely him. But I couldn't imagine. I didn't know what was up yet. And then we had a city party, right, for city employees. And he tried to push me down on a bed as I went in the house to go to the bathroom. But he was a little guy. He was a little old guy with a little handlebar mustache. And I don't know if you've seen me.
How tall are you?
Well, I'm 5'8", and I'm also like, I got some strong legs. Okay, I can break a watermelon with these knees, right? So dude tries to like push me down on the bed. And I just do one of these like, got the feet up. Oh my God, my feet are probably dirty because I went outside barefoot. I locked the chickens up. But
Holly also has
I just
chicken.
put my feet up and planted them on his chest, and he hit the mirror with his back. And then I was like, yeah, John, not a good idea. Not a good idea, drunk little freak. So that's about the time I figured out something was really not right with John Sawyer, right?
Yes.
I'm thinking, all the firemen are there, all
Was he
the
chief of
ambulance
police?
guys. He was the chief of police, the actual
God.
chief of police.
Lord. Wow.
You guys, there's so much more to this story, right? Because like my friend, I made friends with the sheriff, with the sheriff's office dispatcher. Her name was literally Shirley, and she had a red fucking beehive. Okay, and I loved the woman.
Wow.
You know who I'm talking about. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about, right? She'd been dispatching for 70 years for the sheriff's office, right?
Right.
So,
One ringy dingy.
Thank God she was friends with me, because when this clown really lost his mind and decided to like snag me, because this went on for a while, he became obsessed. And then when I quit the police department and I was only working for the nursing home, he became really upset. So the first time he stopped me, right? Stopped me in my car as I'm coming home from the nursing home, talking about, you turned too soon on that red light. And I looked up there and I said, John Sawyer.
Red light.
Yeah, I said, John, listen up, John. I'm like, I got the window rolled down. I said, don't, just do not. Okay, I'm gonna give you a look. Do not, don't get all up in this. Don't. It only looks like you want to get all up in this. Don't do it. And so he's like, well, I'm gonna let you go this time. As I'm driving off, I'm like, like I said, don't do it. Well, he didn't, because child predators are not in control. Okay? That's the first thing you can know about them. They're completely out of control. And you can usually tell by their behavior, right? And the way they carry themselves. So this is how we're going, right? And then, so one evening, I'm working the the swing shift at the nursing home. And we just, we would get off at 11, and so these ladies, sometimes they'd be like, hey, Ollie, come and go with us, get a burger. There was pool tables. It's like the town's bar and grill. But there is a bar in the back. We weren't drinking, okay? I was 20 and a half years old at this point. Well, no, I wasn't. I was going to college the next year, but I was a year and a half behind because of my burn injury. I was out of school for a year, so I chose to go back and do it traditionally.
That's a long time, Holly.
So I'm like a grown-ass adult, right, graduating from high school, which was fine, but not young enough for him to harass us in there after working a graveyard shift at the nursing home eating a damn burger. You know what I mean? So he busts in the back door, but these two guys that were with him one of them was the brother, and I still, I think he's the police chief over there right now, and I thought about contacting him. I don't want to say the name because I'm not really sure. But at the time, he was like 21, okay? So Sawyer had these two rookies with him. One of them is my best friend's older brother, and he's looking like, what the hell? Because Sawyer yanks me out the back screen door of the grill of the restaurant. Yanks me out there. And, I mean, he's about to, it's about to be a movie. It's about to be a movie. You can tell this freak, his obsession and his compulsion and his thinking that I know something about him has gotten the best of him, right? So long story short, he drags me out there. I'm quick. I have a few minutes with him. And I copped physical and verbally battery on a cop. Also, a kick to the chest. He was on the ground. I was stomping him. Finally, these two kids walk up and like, very gingerly get my shoulders and like, come on, that's enough. But it was like 5 freaking minutes, girl. I swear that you could just feel him standing there letting me do it, right? And then they throw him in the front seat. They throw me in the back. I've lost my mind by now because none of this is mathing. Plus, I'm dealing with the toy box killers a quarter mile away, and I'm thinking this guy's involved with some really shady stuff. But yet, at age 19, what do you do with that? Right. What do you do with that?
He was involved with shady stuff.
Yes.
And he was involved with the toy box killer.
Yes, I believe so. And he was probably who knows? He was getting ready to at least, I don't know what. The problem is, he didn't have the sense to realize he was 1/16 of a mile out of his jurisdiction at this bar and grill. That's how out of his mind he was.
Yeah, he shouldn't have even been there.
Right. Exactly. So I'm in the back, kicking the cage, losing it, screaming, I will eat your face. I'm just like, I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out so bad. And we get down there and there sits Shirley, right, with her red. And I come in and there's a 4-drawer file cabinet, and I turn to the left and I kick it over, and you can imagine the sound it made.
Wow.
And he's just standing there, and I'm screaming across the precinct, the sheriff's office, because it's big. I'm like, Charlotte, call my dad. So she did. My dad comes down there, and I'm still, I think he did finally uncuff me just because he was freaking out. He had a look on his face like, oh my God, what have I done? Like, this isn't calming down. She's not scared. she's not intimidated. I was out of jurisdiction. Oh damn! Like it's all coming over his face.
People should have thought about
And
it. He should have gave you an application.
yeah,
You can
well,
handle yourself.
yeah, he did fuck up, all right. But the story of that got out, right? That me, a 4.0 track star getting ready to go to medical school, has never caused any problems. Had to kick over a 4-drawer file cabinet in the sheriff's office. And 1 minute I had verbally and physically abusing a police officer, damage to state property, concealing identity, 5 felonies. And the next minute, he's being escorted out of town in a U-Haul by the district attorney. Because
Did
when
you
the
find
story
out
got
why?
out, yeah, because when the story got out that this went down with me, it apparently gave the courage to 2 13-year-old girls that he'd been messing with for years to come forward.
Ah,
But all
makes
it
sense.
did was make it to the district attorney's house that night and to his office the next morning. So me and my parents were called down to the DA office, talk about, let's just pretend this never happened. And John Sawyer was escorted out of town in a U-Haul by this unknown district attorney.
Now, he was at that time chief of police,
Sawyer was, yeah.
and
The
he was
district-
dismissed from being chief of police at that time?
Oh yeah, they packed him up in the middle of the night.
Now,
for them.
after he leaves, how soon
He goes
did
on
you-
to perpetuate. He goes on to perpetrate. I can't remember the numbers because I get him and Dudley Osborne mixed up and all of them. There's so many. It was at least 200 more counts over the course of the next 15 years.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
Sawyer?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
My understanding is that he served some time in the Santa Fe pen and that he's now living in an actual town in New Mexico. He's out. I have not pursued confirming that, but I'm pretty sure I'm having to dig up the whole thing because
Do you think he was working with David Parker Ray, the toy box killer?
I do. Yes, absolutely. I absolutely do. I believe that David Parker Ray was a cover for several of them. I think it was a trafficking ring. Hugely profitable.
So you would say that some police that achieve higher rankings and lower rankings are actually involved, and they could be serial killers, rapists, and working and covering up their crimes and working in conjunction with other serial killers and rapists. Is that an opinion that you would agree with?
Is it possible? Yeah, just like it's possible that that your local supermarket cashier could be. It infiltrates every single agency. So if you're into corruption and you're into deception and you're into making money doing evil things, then you know the position you have can be very beneficial.
I mean, they give you psych evals before you join these things, but I was married to a police officer, and he was psycho. Okay, he was a retired police officer, and Brenda was also a police officer. Brenda, you want to tell her a little bit about yourself, and then we'll continue with the toy box killer?
Yeah. I started off in Nevada. First, I went to nursing school. I worked in a hospital for 10 years. And then I had gotten beat up by a patient, and of course, you're not allowed to hit them back. So I had a dislocated jaw, broken wrist, black eye, busted nose. Oh, yeah, it was amazing. So I decided that if I was going to work in a job where I should get combat pay, maybe I needed to just move on. So I started in Nevada and loved it there. But I was married and we moved. And I had gone to Tennessee for a few years and did something else. And then I came back here Started off in Waco, did a couple extra side jobs on the side, but
You were in
had a
Waco?
yeah.
Did
That,
you, what year?
oh my God. From I didn't live there. I worked there. From 2003, 4,
Okay, so
5.
that was that after the Texas Rangers Waco?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I knew about that, but I didn't have anything to do with that. But yeah, so I did that on and off, and then I had a real bad accident during work. That kind of knocked me out of career. So yeah, it's all right. But I know, um, I think I worked with quite a few people that were not not in it for the job, but more for paycheck money and benefits.
Benefits
Guess
as in
put it
medical
that way.
benefits, or benefits as
No,
in I can
as
rate this person, I can have access,
yep,
and I can have my arse covered.
I can. Yep, exactly. Those benefits, not medical, because the medical benefits sucked. So, but yeah, I actually think I was going to end up getting away from that anyways. I had had several discussions with a few of them, and um, the good people that work in departments, and they're told, it's probably in your best interest if you don't say anything.
Right, back
So,
to blue.
yeah. And I mean, oh, I back the blue all the way as long as that blue doesn't have any red streaks in it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think I was getting ready to just kind of walk away from that because I just couldn't deal with it because a lot of times I don't have a filter, and to shut my mouth, I'd assume just shoot myself in the foot. So I
Mm.
was probably just getting ready to leave before all that happened. And what happened to me, I can't talk about because, well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 years, almost 5 years going in and out of court. So it's still a ongoing thing. Yeah.
So Holly, let's go back to
Yeah,
David
if you
Parker Ray.
blow the whistle, and it's not a good survival rate if you blow the whistle,
No.
How long
and
have you lived in
they
New
stay off your
Mexico,
shoes.
Holly?
Myself, I
Yeah.
was born here. Yeah,
And
but
you don't
I
live too
haven't
far
really
from
lived here
White
all my life.
Sands?
Hmm.
You don't live too far from White Sands, Missile Range?
Right, I can see it from my backyard.
Oh,
Yeah.
So lots of
Yeah,
military?
the police situation, that you don't make it if you're going to be calling out corruption or trying to fix communications or things like that. You will. One of the guys that's a witness in my case calling out corruption in my town is MIA. I'm trying to find him. He's my witness, and it's like, well, nobody knows where he's at. He went from being promoted to detective to not even working there anymore.
really?
Hmm.
Did he get let go, or no one knows what's going
No
on
one
with him?
knows. No one knows.
Well, that's not a good thing.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you you live in New Mexico. Obviously, that's what she said, and next to White
Yeah.
Sands.
New Mexico,
So,
White Sands. What else we were talking about? Yeah, I had a jail stint too. The other thing is, I had an experience in a county jail, which opened my eyes as to the corruption and BS that's going on in there.
Yeah, that was
You know,
after you said that
yeah,
you would house me and you offered me sanctuary, and then you disappeared.
I'm
And
pretty sure Penny's to blame for me going to jail.
right, it's me.
But
And then, well, that's when we found out that the chief of police had been imported to your region, and he lived like 15 minutes from my handler, who was also a former police officer, and he was a commander of the DAV.
Mm.
We have a
You know, we
guy
all run it.
tonight on TikTok. It was on the news tonight. A guy on TikTok who's a New Mexican from Albuquerque. Now he fucked up. Okay, he worked for a dry cleaner, and somebody brought their state police uniform in, and before he cleaned it, he put it on and did this video. That was wrong. Okay, that's illegal.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
That's where he
Highly.
messed up. If he'd like made
Highly.
a construction paper patch, maybe he could have gotten away with this, but I don't know what he was thinking. But at the end of the day, he does this funny video basically kind of mocking the corruption in the state police okay.
Right.
Well, the next thing you know, the police officers are knocking on his door and he's charged with, I think the only thing that they could get him for, which was impersonating a police officer, right? But, you know, my question is, we just had a state police officer in Carlsbad show up with hundreds of images of children on his state computer. Did they charge him? But we're going to charge a 22-year-old kid for getting on TikTok, and they're going to make a big deal out of this because they don't feel that
Who was
their
that
image
police
was
officer?
properly.
Because there was a police officer when I was trying to get my husband's badge number, and
This was a state police supervisor that was caught with.
okay, so it's
CP on
the
his
chief of
computer.
police at the time after my husband had died, and I was trying to get his badge number. His name was Skinner, and I was trying to get my husband's badge number, and my husband looked like David Duchovny, and I looked like Gillian Anderson.
There's
and-
a Skinner in every single precinct. Tell me I'm wrong.
I don't
They're
know,
not
but
a
this
Skinner
freaked me out because I
In
thought that
every-
I was looking for the chief of police in Carlsbad, San Diego. And when I was Googling, I was upset, and it came up Carlsbad, New Mexico, but I thought it was Carlsbad, San Diego. And I'm like, are you serious? I have to talk to the chief of police whose name is Skinner? And my husband looked like David Duchovny from the X-Files. What timeline am I living in? And then I realized that it was the chief of police in Carlsbad, New Mexico. And his name was Skinner. And he looked like Mitch Pileggi, who played Skinner in the X-Files.
It's already like a vortex, like because that's where the caverns are. It's kind of a supernatural-ish place anyway. But yeah, my understanding is there has been a state police officer supervisor who's been wasting some tax money on some pretty rank stuff. So those are the kind of issues that we have going on in our state. We have a lot of local corruption. I just described the corruption to the extent that it can be as it was in Truth or Consequences. Of course, that was in, the late 80s. You want to hope that we've cleaned it up. But in some respects, we haven't. And I'm dealing with it right now. I exposed, corruption and crime by officials in my own town, a few years ago. And I'm still, suffering the clownery of all that, including illegal warrants and, just nonsense and cops showing up at the house, not even knowing what the warrants are for and stating, other people's charges and stuff. It's just corruption doesn't pay off because as it goes along, people are going to have a hard time keeping their story straight, and that's the only reason I've gotten as far as I have with my case with the city officials is because I have committed no crimes.
So let's
I
go back.
got a little leg to stand on.
Let's go back. I know it's uncomfortable because I know for a long time, and probably for the rest of your life, you're still this is a post-traumatic stress situation that you'll always feel when you're talking about it. And sometimes we try to distance ourselves with it. I use humor to deal with post-traumatic stress. I just deny I even have it. So I'm going to read a little bit about who this individual was. His name is David Parker Ray, also known as the Toy Box Killer, was an American kidnapper, torturer, serial rapist, and suspected serial killer. Though no bodies were found, Ray was accused by his accomplices of killing several women and was suspected by the police to have murdered as many as 60 women from Arizona and New Mexico while living in Elephant Butte, New Mexico. Ray was convicted of kidnapping and torture in 2005 and 2001, for which he received a lengthy sentence, but he was never convicted of murder. He died of a heart attack about 1 year after his convictions in 2 cases, the second of which resulted in a plea deal. Did they ever make a movie of the week of this guy?
I've never heard one, but they
There's
should.
several books written by family members of the victims. There's 2 or 3 books written. And one of the books is how I realized that I'd been taken to his trailer.
Oh,
There were,
There was a
it said
photograph.
0 confirmed victims, 3 survived, but up to 60 to 100 plus murders suspected. Do you believe that?
Oh, I think there's a lot more than that. If you include the possibility that the officials around there were involved in trafficking, snuff films are worth $1 million, right? So, I mean, when you're talking about actual trafficking, it's huge, right? And it usually involves a lot of people from different, arenas to make it happen. And I believe that Parker Ray was just a nice fluffy distractionary false flag, really, to what was actually going on, and probably still is. I mean,
Do
the
you
way they
think-
handled it, it should be
did he
still going on.
actually do any of that? I mean,
David,
is
oh
that-
well, yeah. I'm not saying he didn't do it or that he wasn't what
Oh.
he is, but they will use something like that to explain
other
like
things that they do.
why women have gone missing for 15 years and stuff like that. They'll roll up with, oh well, it must have been Jeffrey Dahmer lurking in some apartment, and we got him. Don't worry, we got the crazy serial killer off the street. That's a whole nother radio show. You don't want to get me started on that. I have a weird theory. I do. I have a weird theory that all that crap is false flags.
Now,
You
it
know
says
what? I don't have it.
in his wiki, Ray used soundproofing methods on a semi-trailer, which he called his toy box, and he equipped it with items used for sexual torture. He would kidnap about 4 or 5 women a year, holding each of them captive for around 2 to 3 months. During this period, he would sexually abuse his victims, often torture them with surgical instruments, sometimes involving his friends, wife, or even his dog. Then Ray would drug them with barbiturates in an attempt to erase their memories of what had happened before abandoning them on the side of the road. So,
Or throwing them in the lake. I believe he put a lot of them in the lake because we have a massive dam at the Elephant Butte Lake, and they say that the catfish get the size of like small buses down there, and they just kind of hang out on that the electric dam.
did
And
you
if
go out to
threw a
that lake
body down there-
before? Did you go out to the lake?
Oh yeah, I lived there. So the lake was like a 10-minute drive, right? And yes, as seniors, we spent a lot of time out there that spring. And several times we'd be at our little parties. Sometimes we'd spend the night, we'd all camp out and our parents would be out there and stuff too for a while. But several times at our parties, in the evenings, there'd be music playing. We'd all be around a fire. And he would roll up in his state park truck. And he would just be roaming the party in the dark. So this man literally had his hands on, speaking of arm memories come out of my shoulders later, he would come up behind us and like do one of these, hey, how you kids doing out here?
The toy
And yes, he touched me. He touched me.
Ew.
So
I know,
you
right?
knew who he was?
Yes, he was the state park ranger. So if we were out there fishing, boating, or whatever, he was driving around in his truck, and he liked to show up at the teenagers' parties just to well, I'm just making sure you're all doing okay out here. Your parents know you're out here. But he was just coming to touch girls, I think. And then
Did your friends disappear, Holly?
did my friends disappear? Well, lots of people. Like, yeah, there was a woman. There were several that they weren't my friends because I was only there that senior year, right? But definitely they were locals. People that everybody knew them.
Did you ever? So were ever any bodies recovered in that lake?
No, that's the thing. There weren't a lot of locals. That's why I don't think he got me that day because they were arguing in the bedroom, and he was asking her, "Where did you find this chick? Right? Why are you bringing me something that they're gonna miss?" Is what the discussion was about because she was new at the job, and I was very shy. I mean, I guess people thought I was shy. I don't know. She thought I was somebody that would be easy to abduct. I don't know. I'm not easy to abduct.
Was
Right.
that the girl that you were working with in the nursing home that brought you there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did she know what he was doing?
Yeah.
He was helping him.
He was paying them. And drugs. They were all drug addicted.
Wow.
So now, when you
Yeah.
got there, how did you get out of there, and what did you feel when you got there? And could you see anything that made you wigged out?
I go in and I sit down. It was very strange. It was a completely empty, like a 16 by 80, 1972 at the newest mobile home. As you walk in the front door, there's the living room, and there's a little, like a bar into the kitchen, those mobile home styles. And then 2 bedrooms down to the right, and 2 bedrooms and a bathroom and a laundry room down to the left. And all of the doors were closed. So when I got in the front door, there was like a waiting room chair, like an old dental waiting room chair. It was ugly black chair that was sitting in the wall opposite the front door. So I go over and I sit in it. Huh? Oh no, somebody's cutting out.
I can hear you.
Oh, I heard somebody else talking. So I go and sit in that chair, right? It took me like 10 minutes to I'm looking around, I'm looking up and down the hall. She right away goes into one of the bedrooms. And I start hearing muffled conversation right away that never stopped, really. It was kind of like almost elevated, but not, like they were trying to keep me from hearing. But there was like emotion behind it. And every time she would come out of one of those bedrooms, she would instantly close the door like really closely behind her. And then she'd go in another one. I'm just sitting there. I'm actually looking around thinking this place is gross and dumpy. And like, why isn't there anything in here? Like there's no other furniture. I hadn't really noticed the kitchen yet, but there was nothing in the kitchen but a Mr. Coffee that was turned around and unplugged. So that just told me like nobody's like cooking here. Like nobody lives here. I'm really getting better at talking about this. I used to just like go.
I know.
Yeah,
We used to just totally cry and I'm very proud of you right now.
Yeah. And I'm not even sure, like, he didn't get me, right? I don't know what I'm so upset about. But just how close it was. So anyway, she kept coming out. Her face started getting more, like, upset looking, too. And then at some point, I'm sitting in that chair, right? I'm facing forward. She comes down the hall this way. And I feel her coming up behind me. And just, like, kind of standing about 5 feet away from me next to the wall, right, where the windows are. And I'm sitting here. I just feel it. I feel her standing there. And I feel like she's thinking about something. And today, I really believe that he was basically telling her, get her the fuck out of here. Like, why would you bring me a local high school girl? That her parents are going to be missing her in the next 45 minutes. But I think that she was thinking otherwise, is what I think was going on. She was like, well, I'll just get her and then he'll know that it was whatever. I don't know what they would have been thinking. Oh my God, right?
So when you left, when you got out of there, was she driving?
I just stood up. That's what I don't remember to this day. That's a memory I haven't retrieved. And what that would tell me is in the parking lot after the nursing home, because at that time it wasn't a swing shift, it was a day shift, right? But I still had to get home when my parents got home from work around that time, or at least shortly after. So when she asked me, she met me in the parking lot. And it was very, very like, she was like, "Hey, I got to go get some money from my brother. Would you drive out there you want to drive out there with me? So I don't have to go by myself," because she was like really kind of like flirty and cheerleader, and everybody liked her, and she was really like very over charming and intimidating. And so to this day, I don't remember if we got into my car or hers, which would mean like when I stood up, because that's what I did. I got a feeling. I stood up, and as I stood up, I said, "Hey, I gotta go. My mom's going to be looking for me." And I remember my hand reaching for the front doorknob, for the doorknob of that trailer, one of those old weird silver doorknobs, right?
Yeah.
And I pushed the door, and I remember everything just slowed down because she wasn't moving. She wasn't, I didn't feel her stepping up behind me right away. It took her a nanosecond to step into line, and that's when I panicked. Because I feel like she was thinking there was a split second when she was gonna bust the move.
It's pretty sad.
And then I remember going around the corner of the trailer, and I remember walking towards a car, but I don't remember to this day if I got in the driver's seat or the passenger seat. But at any rate, she was behind me, and she didn't say anything. I got taken back home, but like I don't remember. I vaguely remember her taking me back to the parking lot, which would make sense that we were in her car. And it would also make sense why I was kind of stressed when I reached for that door, because I wouldn't have been if I'd been in my own car, I wouldn't have been stressed reaching for that door. I would have gotten in my car and left, but that's what makes me think we were in her car. But that's it. That's the story. There were probably women chained to cots in those bedrooms when I was there, according to the time frame.
You didn't see anything other than you were just in a room that was kind of empty?
I was in the living room.
Okay.
And all the doors were closed. But it was definitely the mobile home. But see, I didn't know that because the news stories didn't show the mobile home from the back. They showed it, or if they didn't show it from the front, they showed it from the back. And that's where the toy box was. It was a very expensive horse trailer that he'd converted, right? They said it was worth about $200,000.
Wow.
But it was in the back, so I had never seen the front of it on the news. So it wasn't until I read this book, or I saw the book online written by a family member, where several angles of the actual mobile home had been taken, that showed more of the, because it's like a cul-de-sac at the lake. It's a special road that's really a cul-de-sac, and it's right on the lake. And so the actual incident itself wasn't so bad. It was kind of weird, but it wasn't until I realized that that's who it was, right? And that's where I'd gone, and that Lisa Lynch, the girl who took me out there, was a missing person.
Susie, we had talked a little bit about, if you don't mind sharing your incident with the serial killers, because I was like, why are all my friends, almost victims of serial killers? But there was one thing that she said today, which she just said about she couldn't remember some things. And you and I were talking about that very thing this afternoon, because of what happens to you when you're in these positions.
Yeah. Susie?
Well, my we were talking about earlier was because I had a bloat in my head. That's why I was, lost some memory. But what did you were asking about? The
Well,
first
there were
question
two
was
different,
about
yeah, there
the
were two
serial
different
killer?
incidents. One was that you did have a physical blow to your head, but when you're in shock, what she was saying was that she had a complete memory loss. She does not know. There's situations which she couldn't remember. In your instance, you had a bullet whiz by your head, and it hit you, it grazed you, and it caused you the shock of the incident as well, and actually being physically assaulted by a projectile caused you to lose memory.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a brain injury that you know get amnesia, you get brain memory loss. But you know what I was thinking about when you were saying that, and what she was saying was when I was little, like me and my girlfriend, we used to like. Well, one of the things that we used to do. Her name was Chris Miller, and she was a horse person like me. And her dad lived in Canton, Ohio, and so we would go to her dad's property in Canton, and we would get on our bicycles, and we would run around to the Amish farms out there, and we would just visit different Amish farms because we wanted to see the horses and the animals, and we loved the Amish people and everything. So one afternoon, we went to this one farm, but it wasn't necessarily an Amish farm. It was owned by this woman, and she had a guy that worked for her. Um, so the story kind of reminds me a little bit about what Holly said, because what happened was we go to this house, and the lady had a stable with a lot of horses, and she had a nice house. So she invited me and my girlfriend in to have something to drink. Okay, I don't know, Polly, did you drink any or eat anything while you were there?
No. Mm-mm.
That's a miracle.
Had she given you anything before to go in there or anything? No. Okay, but this your story reminded me of this incident with in my situation. So this woman, she gave me and my girlfriend something to drink, and she was telling us this story about the guy that worked for her, and me and my girlfriend lost time somehow. We don't know what happened. We were sitting on her couch, and it was just the weirdest thing, and I don't even remember what happened, but she was just saying that this guy that worked for her, that they went to this horse show, and that he was drugging her horses. Okay, and I mean, which we're just kids, we don't know what all that means. And I'm thinking, why would she have somebody working for her, some man who's drugging her own horses so that they will fail in their events? And yet he's here on the property in the barn. And I think what she did is, I think she drugged me and my girlfriend. So after a little bit, we got up and left, and I don't know if anything happened there, but we never went back to that farm, but it just reminded me. I thought about that, for years later. What if they drugged us
now
and
that
did
you
something
mention
to
it,
us?
she might have, because I don't remember the rest of the evening either. I don't remember how I got home. I don't remember if she dropped me at my car or, well, you know what? I would have gone to the nursing home either way, right? Because I would have dropped her at her car, or she would have dropped me at my car. But I don't remember. I don't remember
I'm
going
thinking
home. Yeah, I might have.
I'm thinking you got drugged because I'm pretty sure we got drugged because I felt funny, something weird. Like, I don't know, it felt funny, like my head felt weird or something. I remember thinking, what's wrong with me? I was thinking, and I'm thinking that your lack of memory, it sounds
Yeah,
like
could
they
be.
gave you something, or she gave you something. Yeah.
Also, the way I stood up, it was kind of like, when you've been at a party and you have a few drinks and you got to like stand up and or you want to try to walk straight. That's how I felt when I stood up from that chair. Like I kind of had to lunge at the door, and I had to say it all at once, and it was like this major movement to get me out the door. I felt like it was a real effort
I think you were drugged.
to get out
I
the
think you
door.
were drugged. Yeah.
Do you think
Yeah,
maybe
it
you
could
might have
be,
been drugged
yeah.
on the way there? Like, did she give you
Mm.
anything to drink at the nursing home?
Yeah, possibly, because that. Yeah.
Well, I
That's
think
possible.
I think between being drugged and traumatic situations, both of them together is no good, and that would make it really hard to regain memory. So
You could have
Also, the brain, it gives you the.
you know, they could
Yeah.
have broke that drug. It would have been stronger than the drug, and they just didn't give you enough, or you didn't drink enough, or you may not have been.
Right.
You know what I mean? Something helped you.
I'm not real easy to. I don't know. It's not like I've had it happen enough to really know for sure. But I wouldn't assume that I'm very easy to drug. I don't know why I say that. I would just say I'm probably not your easiest person to horse tranquilize.
When you said you got up and her reaction was not that, it sounds like somebody that you were experiencing something different than normal. That's why it made me think about what that lady did to us, because the way we felt really weird. Just wanted to get out of there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of all of a sudden, because like I said, she told me she was going to go get money, right? And so that her brother owed her money. So I wasn't really concerned about any of the goings on. I was just like, wow, it was taking a little bit longer, because she told me they were just going to run out and grab it, and it was like, going on 10, 15 minutes. And then it was just at some point, I'm like, God damn, how many times is she going to open all these bedroom doors and close them again and go in and out of them? Like, what's going on with that? What's up with that? I couldn't, like, she would go in one room, stay for a minute, and then she'd go back into the first bedroom where he seemed to be. But she was going into all the bedrooms and staying long enough to where, like, she was tending to the. He would have them very secured in the mobile home, and then he would take them out one at a time to the toy box.
It sounds like the drugs didn't work very good on you, is what happened.
Yep.
That would have sucked. I wouldn't have gotten out that door, for sure. Yeah.
Did you have any other questions, Penny?
What?
Yeah, we're actually at the half point of the hour. What did you guys have on the agenda to speak on?
Well, usually on Saturday nights, I usually cut it early for us. Sometimes we only do about an hour and a half.
Oh, okay.
So, but what about you, Susie? Did you have anything else you wanted to put out there?
I don't know. I mean, I was kind of just thinking a lot about Penny's Stranger Things story, because a lot of stuff's been coming up lately with the MK Ultra and the demons and just Penny's whole story. And I think I was talking to James. He was mentioning, he goes, one thing I love about Penny is that she's been through so much, and she's just so strong, and she's turned everything so positively to help people. James said that about you, Penny.
He did? Well, that's what I love about you.
Right.
Is that you are so strong, and you've been through so much Shiite, horse manure, piles of it, and you're still the most amazing person that I literally have ever met in my life.
You two get a room.
I'm saying this individual has always ended up on her feet, supporting herself, supporting her son, supporting other people, helping people that are meth addicts that turned around and stabbed her, and not physically but spiritually, that did attack some animals on her ranch. She's always been a person that people have taken advantage of and stolen from, and she always rises back up again
And always cares. No
and
matter
always
what.
cares and always triumphs. That's why she's my best friend.
Yep. She's a good
Oh.
person.
Yes.
I
I
love
think
her. I love her to
they
the
can
moon.
take everything.
She's my Susie Bear.
I love you guys. I love you. You know, the world can take everything from you, but they can't take you from you.
Correct.
You know what I mean? They can't take who you are from yourself. I mean, they can affect you on the outside, but they can't touch the inside. You know, they can't, because that's off limits. That belongs to God, right?
That's right.
I would say that I am very privileged to be the executive producer of the Awake Nation and to work with David Zubik and to work with such amazing individuals that are guests on the Awake Nation, targeted individuals that people, like I say, these two girls here, almost lunched by serial killers. So at one point I was like, why are all my best friends almost killed by serial killers? What is that about? And I don't know if you've ever talked about your experience on this show, Susie, as to what you went through and how we discovered that who those serial killers were. Because when I first met Susie, and I met both of these women when I was on Facebook, and I was locked up in the crazy house, and I asked Susie for a prayer, and she said, "I will pray for you." And I started crying because I said, "Nobody prays for me." And she says, "Where are you?" And I say, "I'm in the crazy house." And she's like, "No, you're not. Are you really?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And then I explained why. And I explained about the deep state family. And we just started talking. And I said, when I get out, I'm going to go interview you, because she said, the first thing we started talking about was Joan of Arc. And I realized I was having I knew now that these visions that I were having, they were real and they were coming true. And I've known it all my life, but they were like, "Oh, you're just dramatic." And I said, "I think maybe I might be Joan of Arc." And this is the first time I even experienced, like talking about reincarnation. And she said, "No, I actually was Joan of Arc." I'm like, "Seriously?" And so I go in and look at her Facebook page, and she's on a horse. And I'm like, "Wow, you were Joan of Arc. You look exactly like her." And I go, "Maybe I was like a sister because I know I'm in that lineage." So we started talking, and I said, "When I get out of here, I'm going to come and interview you." And then I did get out, and I ended up at a CIA house. And then I went to Holly's house to try and find out what the H
And I was
happened
in
to her.
jail. I was in jail.
And she was in jail. And I went and I talked to her sons, and I said, "Where's your mother?" And they said, "Oh, her handler won't let us talk to her. She's in jail." And I'm like, "What in the H?" And so then I prayed, and the place that I was at, I was talking about MK Ultra, and they said, "Well, you can't stay here." I was there for like 5 days, and I find out that a lady that's living there said, "Well, yeah, I worked for the CIA at headquarters. You know where that is, don't you?" I said, "Yes, I do. Langley?" And she says, "Yes, I worked on the Russia desk." And I'm like, holy shit. And then
Run.
I start praying, and the lady says, "Well, her daughter works for NASA." And she says, "Well, you can't stay here." So I pray, and I send out 300 emails at like 11 o'clock at night to see because she wants me to leave by the next day. One person answers, and I'm asking God, "Please help me, please help me." So I drive, the lady and her husband come in to get me, and they take me to a place called Socorro in Texas. And prior to that, I've been in Las Cruces, that's where Holly's sister lived. And so I go to Socorro and I say, what is the name of this town? What does it mean? It means help. I was asking God for help, and he sent me to a town named Help. So then I do my first interview with Carrie Cassidy, and I block her right after that because I think she's Miles Johnson's girlfriend. That's a whole long story. And then Susie says, I say, I'd still like to interview you. And but I have to wait till the end of the month. I'm on disability and I don't have any money. And she said, well, I'm going to send you $200. I said, no, nobody sends me money. She's like, I'm sending you money. You're coming now. So I said, okay then. And I went to her place and I packed enough for a rolling suitcase with, for 2 weeks. And 3 weeks later, I had to buy new underwear and I was still there. And I still hadn't interviewed her. And we realized that we had so much in common. And everyone that saw us were like, are you guys sisters? Like everyone within 5 minutes. You guys sisters? So finally we're like, well, we're not DNA sisters, but yeah, we are sisters. We've become bonded and we've become family. And we realized that a lot of the things that we have in common is that we both love God. We love Jesus. We've had dreams that came true. We've had special abilities and things. And one of my handlers said, how did you find one another? Could I even say Facebook? How did we find one another? Was it God that put us together? Because this is, let's see, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Is it 5 years or 6 years later?
6.
We're still best friends.
It'll be 6 years. I met you 6 years ago in
6 years.
May. It'll be May. 6 years in May.
6 years. And so here's my premise. And they say whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? That's just, I don't actually like that thingy, but you do become stronger. And so I want to thank all of the extraordinary women that are in my life that, and that's you included, Brenda, very extraordinary individuals that I've been privileged to be able to speak to and to listen to their lives that they share, and to the audience. These women are sharing their lives with you. They're trying to share their stories. And so for all the other traumatized individuals, I'm not saying it's a happy ending, but you can make it through. Do you guys have anything you want to say?
I believe that's absolutely correct. And as far as coming together, God, this universe, and Mother Earth, I believe everybody shares a type of a piece of the soul. And I think that at some point when it rotates correctly, everybody come together. Kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. Have you ever noticed that the people that you fit into your life, they fit like a perfect piece?
Except for the, may I say, a-holes that I married.
Yeah, those are flybys. We call those flybys.
Well, one of my flybys was 25 years of my life.
He had gum stuck on his shoe. He kind of stuck around.
Yeah, he was a gumshoe. As a matter of fact, he was a detective.
Gumshoe.
Susie?
Wow.
Well, I'm just listening. I love your story, Penny.
I love your suit.
I love all you guys.
I do too.
So special.
And I think that love is the thing that makes us triumph. So as much as they want to make you hate, which I went through a period where I was really pissed. I'm still pissed to find out that my former agent, John Boy, who I used to call John Juan, or John, I used to call him John Juan, right? Like Don Juan, but John Juan is actually Don John. So whatever. I find out my agent, who I had an affair with, I find out from my first husband that he's my brother. What a nightmare.
Yeah.
And he denies it. He denies it. I said, we're related through the Baumgartner name. And he says, not all Baumgartners are related, Penny. And all the hairs on the back of my neck stood up.
You're like, well, I think we are.
Penny.
Well, I didn't know. I didn't know.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's biblical.
Oh God.
It's biblical. They all sleep with.
They all sleep with their sisters. I do know that I did not believe in reincarnation. And before I met Susie, when she said that she was Joan of Arc, I wouldn't have believed that until when I was sitting in Willow Creek Church and I looked on the wall and I saw these series of really creepy pictures, which I took a picture of. And there was an individual in a mask, like a surgeon's mask, behind this like fuzzy gauzy exterior. And I said, that's John. I would know you for 1,000 years. And then later on, I'm thinking, that's a long time. That's not like 5 minutes or 5 years or 50 years. I said, I would know you anywhere. I would know you for 1,000 years. And that's actually when I was like, did I know this individual? Have I known this individual for 1,000 years? And has he pretty much just been like a piece of crap in all of his incarnations?
One day karma will affect that. Well, ladies, Penny, we'll start with you. Where can people find you?
So you can find me Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. That's Central Time, or 9 to 12 noon, and that's Eastern Time. I'm not going to go into Mountain Time, Holly. At The Awake Nation. You can find us at theawakenation.com, and that's my phone number. Just in case you're wondering, it's not like I'm advertising with the stuff on my back or nothing. And you can find me at theawakenation.com or on the David Zublik channel on Rumble. And if you think that you might want to be a guest after watching the show, please feel free. I can talk. Please feel free to text my phone. I won't answer unless you're in my contacts. If you have a story that maybe you think that needs to be told, or you have a friend that you think might be interested in speaking on the Awake Nation, we talk about whistleblowers. We have political aspirants that are awake. The people that are on the show, of course, it's called the Awake Nation because we talk about all things from UFOs to the disclosure of our open border, and we are conservative and we're Christian, and we talk about just pretty much everything. There is no subject that we don't talk about, including, is Biden a clone? Because seriously, there's something really, really wrong with them.
Something wrong with all of them.
Right. And so we have, just a bevy of individuals, from producers and actors and directors and musicians to people like Susie Q, who is on every other Friday. And then she's also on the Dark Outpost. And her Dark Outpost is Hot Shots, because her last name is Hot. And because she has a lot of hot stuff to talk about.
And
Susie's hot as fish grease. Susie's hot as
and Holly, you can find Holly on our Monday show. Holly's on our trauma triage team, and we've had a lot of movement within the trauma triage team. People come, people go, but we have a rule in Fight Club. The rule in Fight Club is don't talk about Fight Club, but obviously you're talking in trauma triage. But the rule in trauma triage is please do not traumatize your trauma triage team members.
yeah, that would not be a good thing.
No, it happens.
Well, are y'all ready to wrap it up?
We're all so traumatized. It's a little tricky having us all in the same room.
Thank you, ladies. It's been wonderful.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Penny, for coming on.
Thank you. It's just
And,
been an honor. Just great to meet you.
You too. And for everybody else out there, we will be back next Friday. I will go ahead and post who's coming on and a little bio. And for now, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. And Susie, did you have something to say?
I love you guys,
Oh, well,
and God bless us all.
that's right.
I wanted to say that, Susie and Penny are two peas in a pod. I like to refer to them. I affectionately refer to them as double trouble.
She's the one with the gun.
All right, guys. Well, everybody out there, good night. Good night, William. Thank you for coming. And we will see you next weekend. Bye-bye.
Yeah.